For nearly 2 months, I've been in this really magical world of things unfolding magically, beautifully, creatively, in the spirit of generosity and sharing and cooperation, altruism. It's just been absolutely magical. There's been some challenging things too, for sure, but the flavor has been mostly magic. And so much so, there's been no need for me to talk to myself, in that it hasn't really happened. I haven't really had time. I've been so busy living. Why would I need to sit here, talk to myself, work things out for myself when everything was working out perfectly in daily manifestation? There's no need to talk about it. It's just happening magically, and it is just it. And there's no need to talk around it or about it. You speak as it and you move with it, and there's no real time to retrospect. The retrospecting disappears, and creation appears and unfolds beautifully. And one is an integral part of that. But it's gotten to a point where it's happened a number of times where I go sort of flat, as I don't know what it is, if it's a defense mechanism. Flatness happens when one really doesn't know what to say or do. Maybe because one is saying too much and doing too much. I really don't know. I don't think there's an answer per se, but I'm wanting to talk to myself about it. Wearing these glasses right now is a gesture of just too much information, too much light, too much beauty around that moves me, and blocking out blue light is a way to possibly do that. And I haven't really been doing the blue blocking at night thing. In terms of practically what's happened, I also have tapered off the Zopicone. I was taking a quarter of Zopicone, and I've tapered off the 50 milligrams of trazodone officially now. Last night and yesterday was the first time I took tryptophan, because you can't take that when on antipsychotics. And I also took St. John's wort. Sorry, you can't be on those when you're on antidepressants. And I was taking trazodone. So that could also be increasing my sensitivity, if one wants to look at it that way and say, well, you've tapered off some meds, that's why you're feeling more sensitive, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like even since I first got here, my motivations and actions are questioned, or saying, oh, you're talking too fast, you're doing this, you're doing that. And people don't see when they're doing it, but they can see clearly when I'm doing it somehow. Maybe because when I do it, it's augmented, it's more emphasized, there's more energy behind it, because have this bipolar thing. So people they get their back up a bit more because somebody has a lot of energy behind it. It's not mechanical, but it's really happening energetically. The same patterns, but a lot of energy behind it. And people are like, what are you doing? Plus, people know about my label, so that doesn't really help the situation. And this is what happens. People question from where our actions spring, because they don't realize that there's this spring of creativity within us all that would create a spring in our step and spring ideas forward and create new things and bring new fruits into life. And then people, if we start acting differently from this field of creativity and meaning, people question our motives. They question how that happened, how we're so different. And if we're being different, we must be crazy. We must be crazy to be different from the masses. And that's part of it. It's almost crazy for people to stand out. Because if you stand out, you are very vulnerable. And if you stand out, it makes people realize that they're not doing what they can to do their best to stand out in their own unique way. They realize that they're mediocre. And we're all co-conspiring to keep each other mediocre. That's what education is. That's what society is. And I don't know, it's really challenging. Because the thing is, one of the falls of bipolar is to feel like, hey, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I have all this capacity, I'm God. The truth is, we all have this capacity. Every single one of us. But we're afraid of it. We're afraid of our own capacities. So we create things to externalize them or buy things to have external representations of our own capacity. And it's really complicated, of course, but I'm seeing by being here this time that it's a field of energy in a place, in a space where I'm able to exercise some of my capacities, but then the motivations are questioned or the amount of energy is questioned. And people start to question themselves, which could be a good thing in a way, but I feel now that I have to shrink myself on purpose to not stand out. And I don't even have to do it. It just happens. Like today, it just happened that today and yesterday I've been tired for the first time and kind of laying around, but also feeling sort of this ecstatic bliss of depression, of not being depressed, but laying still as a gesture to the universe. I really don't have to do anything. There's really nothing to do. There's really no doer. And the same is true in this field of creativity. When people are acting, there is no doer there. There's no separate doer. Things get done. There's action. There's creative action, and things are created. But then people are wondering, well, who's doing it? Well, nobody's doing it. It's that field of energy that isn't part of the field of thought, which is the limitation that holds us in a prison and keeps our capacities hidden from ourselves. And what happens in trance consciousness is when we go trans, all those limitations drop away, and all of a sudden we have access to all these capacities we never knew we had. But they're right there in the snap of a finger. And we realize that everything we've been sold about trying to become these capacities that we already have now is false. So the whole field of education and marketing and everything is all false. I've seen pretty clearly this time, mainly because these things that happen in so-called bipolar, the flatness or the massive boost of enthusiasm and energy, it seems that they're mostly decoupled from egoic processes that would make them continue longer than necessary. So they're just what's happening, and it's not a big deal. If I'm all of a sudden really flat and depressed, no big deal. I can change the situation. And now I'm out and about talking with myself. Something different that I haven't done for a long time because it hasn't been necessary, but I feel like now I have to. But what I want to say with that is I saw very clearly how this retreat into flatness and laying in the bed and not saying anything or doing anything is really an act of compassion, so others around can feel more comfortable, because this energy, it makes people feel really uncomfortable, and they're just questioning how people are able to do so much, and then they feel, well, why can't I do that, or I don't want to do that, or all this resistance. I'm really not sure, but I'm not going to lay in bed for weeks. I don't need to. I can see these mechanisms so much faster now because they happen really quickly and then they're over. You might almost call that rapid cycling. It might be a benefit of being a rapid cycler to be like, oh, okay, now that's over. Now I'm going to rapidly change this whole situation because I'm not going to cycle like that, so other people can feel comfortable. But that is one possibility, and it's not a big deal when it happens either. You know, this video so does not capture all the beauty of the last 2 months. It's been so incredible, so magical, so many magical things that the universe is speaking the language of magic and manifestation and making it so obvious that there's this infinite creation that is really wanting to play with us and play as us and make life beautiful for us. And we just can't see it, and it's kind of sad. But I'm not sad about it because I can see it pretty clearly now. So yeah, there's been a lot of possibilities opening up. I went into this possibility space for a long period of time, and it was really powerful. And luckily I was here with all these people who are open and understanding, and they could really be with me through that, and I got through that. But slowly over the time, the possibilities have closed. I've even thought of the possibility of going back to Canada and being with people that I care about there, because it's a great community and they help me get to this place. And then I'm in this place where I'm being questioned, but maybe this is a good opportunity to learn how to meet these questions of what'll happen if one person who's bipolar is really able to function in daily life. People will either be like, hey, I really want to work with you and cooperate with you and help to create this vision or this company or whatever you want to do. Or they'll be like, how are you doing that? I don't want to do that. And that's a good way to know who's in and who's out. Not in terms of anything ultimate, but in terms of there's so much of this energy, but if people don't want it and they don't want to share in it and participate in it, then they don't want it. And it's, lately I've been maybe trying to convince people a bit too much by doing too much explaining. And explaining isn't creating. It's translating that creative energy into something that thought can understand, which maybe that'll never end. But those words and explanations aren't the state. They aren't the lived experience of it. And I don't know, but it could be good in a way. Like in life, I'm feeling this shift of people seeing that, hey, there are some benefits to this so-called bipolar thing, to the point where people are like, oh, I'm not bipolar, that's kind of shitty. But the thing that I feel could be possible is that, I don't know if this is true, but since I've gone through it and suffered through it, I might be able to pass on that creative energy without people having to go through all the bullshit of the mental health system. They can go into creation and not so much of the destruction. I don't know, but otherwise, what is the point? If one can't co-create, if one can only be translated into thought and then lay in a bed, what is the point? Bunch of wild turkeys. What does that mean? Does that mean I'm being a turkey? Or maybe they're escaping. There's more here. Why did the turkey cross the road? To get to the other side? What did I say about the world being magic? It's like a turkey up a tree. They escaped Thanksgiving. They're so happy. They're giving thanks for their life by walking across the road. They're doing a dance for me. They obviously didn't have their wings clipped. These are some healthy looking turkeys. Don't you dare cross the road again. There's a car coming. You stay over here. Hey. You're gonna get yourself killed. doing out here? It's like turkeys all the way up the tree. There's a lot of them. Who was so kind as to leave you with wings? Who was so kind as to allow you to use your wings? Have you missed me, nature? Yeah, I've missed you too. Not sure about human nature. Well, I'll leave you to it. You seem pretty happy up there. I won't overdo it. Turkeys escaped.